Hey, welcome to What's the Tea, the TransLink podcast. I'm your host, John Jang, and on this episode, we're going to ask this question.
What would you say you do here?
What's the role of SkyTrain Attendants? Let's tap in to What's the Tea.
The next station is
Welcome to What's the Tea, the TransLink podcast.
Every job has something in common. No matter what you do for work, there are visible and invisible responsibilities. For example, if your job requires a lot of driving, the physical act of getting behind the wheel is visible, while understanding that you have to follow the rules of the road is invisible. There's always more than meets the eye, and that very same principle applies when talking about the work that our SkyTrain attendants do every single day. They have visible and invisible responsibilities. In fact, let's take a closer look and really examine what being an STA is all about.
My name is Cherie Cogman. I'm a SkyTrain attendant. My job is important because it gives us a chance to serve the people in a personal way, greet them with a smile and a handshake, and give them customer service, to show them directions, and also standby medical response if and when that is needed as well. The best part of my job is making a difference in everybody's day. Just being there with a positive attitude and a smile really makes a difference. I love my job because I love people. When I was a little girl, I had three choices. I wanted to be either a nurse, a social worker, or a counselor. And I find here at SkyTrain, I get to wear all three hats, and I love it.
Customer service is a huge part of being a SkyTrain attendant, but that's really not the only thing they're responsible for. In fact, it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Sometimes they confuse us with security. Some other times, like you said, they think that we're there just to make sure that people are tabbing in, or we're there to give directions.
Let's talk to the people who know exactly what it's like to walk a mile in those shoes. Mo Hasabo is the manager of field operations at BC Rapid Transit Company, and Jen Byrne is a real-life SkyTrain attendant, meaning if you take the SkyTrain often, you've probably stood just a few feet away from her at least once before. If you were to describe the work you do as a SkyTrain attendant to a friend or family member who maybe has never had this conversation with you before, how do you describe your job?
I would describe it as very dynamic. No 2 days are ever the same. There's always something different going on, and there's a lot of information to know. And you have to pull from your toolbox every day something different that you've learned and you have to go with.
Versatility being a key part of the job. I think that makes a lot of sense because now, Mo, we'll go to you, like talking about some of the misconceptions people have about SkyTrain attendants. I have conversations sometimes and people just make the assumption incorrectly. They think, STAs are there standing around at SkyTrain stations making sure that people tap in correctly so that they don't just sneak in. But that's not true, is it, Mo? Maybe you can elaborate a little further here.
Absolutely. There's few misconceptions when it comes to SkyTrain attendant. The SkyTrain attendant are standing on a platform, and I know that when you riding the train, you look and you be like, why are they standing there doing nothing? But there's a lot that happen within the station, within the system, that the SkyTrain attendant look after. So our main job is customer service, but customer service is a very broad word for customer service.
Anything can be customer service in a lot of ways,
And our job is customer service, is to get the customers from A to B. That's number one job, is to make sure that the customer is having a fantastic trip from where they started until where they end. And that can include making sure they get there on time. Our system is one of the fewest and the biggest automated system in the world. And when you have a computer running the system, sometimes you'll have the glitches, or sometimes we'll have a minutes issue. And that's when the SkyTrain attendant comes into play. So SkyTrain attendant not only get there to give directions and make sure that you know how to use your compass card, but we drive the trains. When, like I said, when a computer doesn't want to cooperate, then we drive trains.
Right.
We troubleshoot sometimes door issues on a train order, because those trains not going to go unless all doors are closed. And few times customers will keep the doors open because they can't wait for a minute and a half for the next one. So we'll have problems with the doors. And that way the SkyTrain attendant will try to fix that problem in order to get the trains going, to go back again to my original point, to get the customers from A to B. There's few issues too that we deal with. Sometimes we have medicals. And we are qualified to deal with medicals, or at least start first aid until the experts show up at the scene. Few things that happen within the station that customers usually don't see. So when you don't see a SkyTrain attendant on a platform, there's few things that we do. So we do walk around the station to make sure that everything around the station is in good order. Gates.
That's the first thing they do.
Yes.
That's the first thing they do every single time they start their shift. And during their shift, they want to make sure there's no graffiti, there's no broken glass. So we walk around the station. And this is just a small part of what we do. SkyTrain attendant, they will deal with mental health. Try to which is unfortunate because we saw an increase in mental health after COVID or during COVID too.
Yeah.
And I understand that customers sometimes they'll have somebody on the system yelling and just yelling, and they will look at the SDA saying, "You're going to do something about it." And the SkyTrain attendant is there just to inform, not to enforce. So when it comes to enforcement, that means people pushing through the gate or doing something on the system they shouldn't be doing. We usually go to transit police or transit security in order to ask them to help us, as our job is not mainly security. So we carry radios, and those radios are to communicate among ourselves, to our control center, and also with other companies like transit police and transit security in order to bring them in to help us.
Yeah.
So this is just a small thing of what we actually do. And I will be honest, I was also with the same mindset before I applied to SkyTrain. I used to say, well, why would I stand on a platform like doing nothing all day? I can look at Google, tell me exactly what time the train is coming and where I need to go and what train I need to take, and what bus I need to ride. But when I joined the SkyTrain and I did my training, which is an intense 6 weeks and then 2 weeks on job training, I realized that, oh my goodness, this is different than what I thought. This is way more complicated than just customer service. So I'm happy that I'm joining you to explain what we do, because the idea of just being a customer service is not really the proper idea. It is customer service, but the definition is way broad than just telling you where to go and how to buy a ticket.
And I think that's the maybe the challenge, because the average customer, they're only at a SkyTrain station for just a few minutes before they get in the train, and then they're going off and they don't think twice about the STA or what's happening at the station that they just left. But for the STA, like, you see hundreds, probably thousands of people coming through, especially during the morning rush hour, afternoon rush hour. The job is that it's about safety and security for everybody. So Jen, maybe take us into some of the things that Mo was sort of explaining there.
So
what's an average day like for you when you get to work?
Okay, so as Mo mentioned, the first thing we do, we have a briefing in the morning and we go over what might be going on the system. If we have any alarm systems that are down, any escalators that are not working, all those sorts of things. And then we go to our stations and we open up the stations. So we're making sure that all the grills are up. We're checking the machines to make sure they're working. The fare gates, make sure they're working. We're checking the tracks to make sure there's no items in there that somebody could potentially want to go in there and get and cause track alarms. We're checking our equipment, making sure that we're having our medical supplies all up to date in case we have a medical. What else we do? We're doing so many things in the mornings. And then making sure everything's tidy and clear for the customers when they come through. So that's how the morning starts.
Right.
And then when rush hour is happening, you're generally going to see us on the platform, because we're there to watch everything going on. So we're watching the people, making sure everybody's standing behind the yellow line, making sure nobody looks lost, making sure nobody looks like they're going to harm themselves. And then we're watching the trains. So when a train comes in, I look at the front of the train and I'm okay, are the electrical heads out, because that's a problem. So I check that. Then we watch all the doors open and close. Right? We're watching all the lights, seeing if there's any faults. On the outside of the train, there's 2 lights. There's a red and a yellow one. If there's a yellow light, it tells you that there's a fault on the train. If there's a red light, that can indicate a door problem. So we're watching the doors open and close. We're watching the train leave. We're also listening to the train. Does it sound normal?
That's fascinating.
Does something sound off? Which I have caught a few times where the train's been leaving and I said, the train doesn't sound right. So is it the train or is it the track? So then I'll stand and I'll watch a few more trains go by and I'll determine.
Sorry, I want to dive into that a little bit more, because that sounds like a skill that you just kind of have to learn over time.
You do.
Because I think of the SkyTrain sound. It's that hum as it starts to leave the station. But you're saying that there's actually differences and nuances.
There is, it's kind of hard to explain, but if it sounds more like it's clunking more when it's leaving, or I can tell if a train is doing a VOBC handover, like there's certain sounds, if it's squeaking more, things like that. So there are things that you pick up while you're there because you're there so often, right? And me personally, I'm constantly at Broadway station. So the fact that I'm there so often, I can pick up when something's wrong with the track because it sounds different.
See, that skill reminds me of like when, this is a silly anecdote, but like when my parents would go grocery shopping with me and my sister, and my dad's trying to buy the perfect watermelon. Like he's knocking on the watermelon and he just has this ear over time. I don't know what that skill is, but that's kind of what you're describing because there's little differences. So that's really fascinating.
Yeah, so we're looking, we're smelling, we're listening, we're using all our senses when we're up there. And it's not just we're looking at the passengers, we're looking at trains, we're looking at the tracks, where everything is swirling around. So we're constantly looking for things that might become a problem.
Mo, I've visited SkyTrain Control, seeing how busy it is. There's so many different monitors and screens. Everyone's trying to make sure that the train is, and the system in its entirety is working as perfectly as possible. So if we say that the SkyTrain Control is the brain of how everything works, would you say that the STAs are kind of like the eyes and ears, making sure that if you need something quality checked, they're there, boots on the ground to be able to do that for you?
100%.
Right.
100%. So, and usually Control, we rely on STAs to ask questions like, hey, what kind of sound are you hearing? Oh, what about now? So yes, we are the eyes and ears for Control. So they are the brain, they run the trains, they're trying to make sure that the trains are running on time and their spacing between the trains are perfectly spaced. And our job in field is to make sure that their job is met, like we are on time, our on time performance is meeting goals. That's what the STAs are doing. And like Jen was saying, this is just like we stand there and we're listening, but at the same time, while we're standing there listening to the trains, we are answering questions.
Right.
So you multitasking while you're just standing there. People are asking for directions, or people asking when the next bus that I need to catch will be outside of the station. Even though you're inside the station, they're asking you how I can catch the next bus. Do you know what time is the next bus, or how I can get to UBC? So you're doing all this multitasking, and if you're lucky, there is nothing else happening in your stations. But sometimes also we have alarms that goes down. For example, we have those intrusion alarms that alert Control if anything is in a guideway. Sometimes they go down. And I understand that we have customers that will come and ask an STA, hey, could you please help me with this? Because they're seeing the STA standing on one side of the platform, just staring at the guideway. And the STA will say, well, I'm so sorry, I can't really help you right now. My partner, who's in the same station, can help you. Let me call them. But they get really upset because they think the individual standing on the platform is not trying to help. But what they don't understand, that he got a really big safety critical job to do, which is he's the alarm system right now. So Control basically rely on the SkyTrain Attendant to let them know if there's anything in a guideway. And it is a very, very important job. During the hot summer, during the winter, when he's standing on that platform for quite a few hours, it is not fun, and you cannot look at your phone or talk to anybody. Your focus is guideway and guideway only, because it can happen in a second where something goes in a guideway and it will become a disaster. So yes, they are the brains, we're the eyes and ears, and I will say eyes, ears, hands, and legs too. It gets quite busy. Like Jen was saying, not 2 days look the same. It's quite the job. You use your brain, you use your ears, you use eyes. You have to be aware of your awareness of everything around you. So you're talking to people, but in the same time, you're watching everything happening around you. So you're not fully engage in one conversation. You
Yeah.
may be engaged in several conversations, as well as talking on the radio at the same time as you talking to a customer. It's quite the job.
Listening to both of you talk about the job, like obviously it's not easy, and there's so much more than meets the eye. Like there's the invisible sort of duties that Mo, Jen, you've both sort of explained and elaborated on. So I want to ask you, and maybe I'll start with you, Jen. What makes you want to stay as an STA? Like, there's got to be good things about the job too,
Oh
right?
my goodness, there's so many good things. First and foremost is the people I work with. Everybody is really kind. We're like a big family. We spend a lot of time together, right? We work 10-hour shifts 4 days a week, so we're together a lot of the time. So those bonds that you build with your coworkers is really strong. And I love the sense of sort of adventure that I get every day, because no 2 days are the same, like I said. So every day you're walking in going, okay, what's today going to throw at me, right? And it's fun going to drive a train. I enjoy driving trains. I enjoy fixing faults and getting things going, right? That's what I personally like to do. But definitely the people and the fun of the job.
I love that. You know, I think it's probably speaks to, again, like the versatility of the skill set that you need.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think that we kind of need like a reality TV show of like what life is like
my
as
goodness.
an STA, right?
Yes, it would be very entertaining.
Yeah, because they have reality TV shows about people that work at airports and like border security. Like maybe we'll get a petition going for that.
There you
one.
go.
That'd
There
be
you
awesome.
go.
Yes.
Mo, when you're looking to hire an STA, like what are some of the traits that would really stand out as a good, strong candidate for a job like this?
Usually yes, customer service is important, but the important part of the job is working under stress. And you want to show us that you can handle working under stress. When I say stress, meaning multitasking, being able to make the decision, confident. You need to be super confident because you make that final decision. Like you mentioned, control is the brain, but we still in field, we make the final call, meaning control can say, I can route the train, but the SkyTrain attendant need to be really confident that it shouldn't be moved. So you have to have that, you'll be brave to mention, no control, this is not going to happen. This train needs to get out of service. And this is something that you need to be assertive, making very good judgmental calls, and at the same time, like having the customer, that service aspect of it. But for sure, working under stress, it is like, I'll call them like they're pilots, and you'll have to make that split-second decision from time to time. They're standing there, they can assess, like, believe it or not, like Jen was saying about the noises of the train leaving the station, reading people too before they commit anything that they shouldn't be doing. Like you can see an individual walking on the platform, and I'll tell you right now, the majority of STAs will be like, they will keep an eye on that person because he's not behaving as it should be. And this is a skill that you gain over the time, but you have to have. We can see if we have an individual that we think is breaking the law, before they even leave the station, we'll be communicating to transit police, hey, I have a feeling this is a person that the description mentioned a couple of days. Even finding people, elderly people who lost for a few days. Like we had that as well, where we be told that there's somebody who's left the house and never been located for the last 2 days, and we'll find them on a system. So can you imagine? It's like being a police officer. So you have to have that memory of the description that you were told about 2 days ago. So all those kind of things I put in perspective when I'm interviewing somebody for the SkyTrain attendant. And it is unfortunate because I think, like I said, you mentioned the misperception of what the SkyTrain attendant they do. When we have people applying for the job, they don't see all of this. And so, yes, I need somebody who is assertive. I also need somebody who is like got the guts to say, hey, this is not going to happen. Make the judgment, like make judge call that saying that this is not going to happen, as well as customer service, driving the train, answering questions, all at the same time.
We know that customers like to say thank you when they get off the bus. Would you like to see customers saying thank you to STAs as they leave the station? Would that be something that we should start trying to do more?
Absolutely. Or even, if I'm on the platform, like I said, I'm looking at things, my senses are going crazy. And sometimes somebody will just come up and say, good morning. And it snaps me out of it for that 1 second. I'm like, oh yes, hi, good morning, how are you? Right. So it's nice to have that conversation sometimes, or we actually do have people come up to us and say, hey, you're doing a good job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which means the world to us.
Right.
Because we're working hard, even though it might not appear.
It's a public-facing job, so
Yeah.
it does make an impact, I'm sure, when the public recognizes that, hey, I have to say
Absolutely.
thank you. So
It does,
thank you
yeah.
for being here.
Or we've had a few train rescues where a SkyTrain attendant has gone out to rescue a train, and the whole train was clapping.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So things like that, they really make it worth it.
SkyTrain attendants are some of the most visible transit employees on our system, but a lot of the work they do is invisible. The next time you're at a SkyTrain station, test yourself and see if you can listen to the train the way they can. You might appreciate all of the subtle nuances to the work they do every single day. My thanks to Mo Hasabo and Jen Byrne for sharing their stories and experiences with me on this episode, Adrian Yee and Alex Jackson for their help in putting this together, producer Alan for his leadership, and you for listening and subscribing. My name is John Jang, and until next time, have a safe trip.